What is the relative cost burden of your carbon tax for women as compared to men?
Sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of your question.
What is the relative cost burden of your carbon tax for women as compared to men?
As you likely know, we believe that for our economy to be successful over the long term, we need to make sure that we're considering also the environmental challenges.
Since you've got to leave, I'll just ask, has a gender-based analysis been completed for the carbon tax?
Again, where I was getting to is that we believe a carbon pricing approach is important, and we've also said that we need to find a way to move that revenue back to the provinces.
So has a gender-based analysis been completed for the carbon tax? As
a revenue-neutral measure, you'll understand that we see this as something that's important for the long-term health of our environment and our economy.
So has a gender-based analysis been completed for the carbon tax?
And as I mentioned, this is a revenue-neutral measure that we see will help our environment over the long term and enable our economy to be successful.
You know, you've talked about the wage gap and these different things. Did you do any modeling? Is the price elasticity of the consumption of carbon the same for women as it is for men in Canada?
As I've said, we believe that carbon pricing is important. We also believe that this
also say on page 219 of the budget,
approach
you've also said on page 219
to do it properly.
So you've also said on page 219 of the budget that you're putting in place a gender results framework, which is a whole of government tool. So has that tool not been applied to the carbon tax?
And again, I'll repeat, in putting in place carbon pricing, we know it'll have a long-term positive impact on the environment.
So it has been done
for everyone. And it will have an impact, of course, that from the federal government standpoint is revenue neutral.
Could you table the gender-based analysis for the carbon tax with this committee?
I'll just repeat again.
So it hasn't been done?
I will repeat again that carbon pricing from the federal government standpoint is a revenue neutral measure that will, over the long term, encourage behaviors that will help the environment for all Canadians.
You can table the gender-based analysis for the carbon tax with this committee?
What I will tell you is that the approach that we've taken is one that will enable all Canadians to be...
I'll take that as a code for no, and I'll take that as code for it hasn't been done. So my question is, if there's a whole of government approach to gender-based analysis, and you're imposing a brand new tax on all Canadians, and we know that there's a pay equity gap for women, and many women bear a disproportionate cost of childcare, why would you not do a gender-based analysis for the carbon tax?
As I've said, we recognize that the way to get to behaviors that are going to ensure that we properly consider environmental impact over time. Would you say that the carbon tax
is sexist? Well, would you? I mean, has there been a gender-based analysis? I'm just wondering.
As I've mentioned, we've put in place the carbon pricing approach in order to deal with the long-term environmental impacts of carbon.
So if you've done no gender-based analysis for it, and we know that women bear the disproportionate cost of childcare and things like driving kids around and paying for transport and food, I would beg to argue that the carbon tax is sexist. Do you have any evidence to prove otherwise with your gender budget?
As I've said, the federal carbon pricing is one that's revenue neutral from the federal government.
So how can it be revenue neutral for women if you haven't done a gender budget for it?
I can just tell you that we've put in place a measure that will allow us to return those revenues to the province.
So you are saying you're actively pursuing a sexist carbon tax?
Well, no, I'm not.
So then why haven't you done a gender-based analysis for it?
I can just repeat what I've said, and that is, of course, that we've put in place carbon pricing that will enable us to have a long-term positive environmental impact.
I know there's a lot of moms that are filling up their cars right now at like $1.70 a tank, and they're going, this doesn't seem like it's gender-based. So will you commit to doing a gender-based analysis of the carbon tax?
10 seconds, Minister.
We will commit to continuing with an approach that will allow us to price what we don't want, which is pollution.
Code for no.
And that will help us with the environment in the long term.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you need more leads for your business, but you're sick of chasing people around or sending out cold messages on social media, I have a free training coming up today and tomorrow that shows you how to